And we are live. Hello, YouTube. Thank you for watching. First of all, before we get into the episode, I need to get some admin out of the way. You may notice this video is going up a little bit later compared to when the TV show went out. The episode went out nearly a week. This episode originally went up a few days ago, but I accidentally edited all this out. So this is take 2. And also, I had originally had this series down to do an overview at the end, but as we've had 2 episodes now, which was so intense and dense, and I thought it would be a good idea to do it episode by episode. So we're starting now. And we go into episode 2, and now that the introductions are out of the way, this episode focuses more accurately on fleshing out the characters and the setting of Catch-22. The base at Pianosa, the residents in Rome, characters, the general tone, though it's possible to simply streamline the plot of Catch-22 to miniseries. I think it's doing a good job of that. I haven't felt that anything is detracted from anything in the book so far. And this episode demonstrates that Catch-22 can captivate with a looser rhythm and one driven by a number of characters instead of a story. Going into those characters, I want to start with Major Major, or to give him his proper name, Major 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 Major. He's played in a brilliantly confused manner by Lewis Pullman, a sergeant who gets promoted to major because of the brass has read his name and assumed he was in senior command. Not wanting to look foolish by bringing a sergeant to a high-level meeting, the 2 colonels, Cathcart and Corn, promote him right away to a major, despite his lack of nerve or qualifications. Soon, Major Major is whisked away from a pleasant little basketball game and given an office and responsibilities he does not understand and he can't cope with. This leads to a brilliant scene with him and his secretary as he tries to come up with a way to avoid doing anything and speaking to anyone else in his capacity as a major. Brilliant. However, I will say that we didn't see the escape route from his office, which I remember from the book is one of my favorite things, and I hope we see that again. Well, I hope we see it for the first time at some point in a future episode, as that was one of my favorite things in the book. Then there's Nately, who's played by Austin Stowell, who is defined by the fact that he falls in love with an Italian prostitute while on R&R in Rome. Nately waxes lyrical about trying to communicate with her in spite of the language barrier, and his musings play in a lovely little voiceover scene over the men cavorting with sex workers, which was a nice directorial touch and keeps as close to a clean tone as possible with this type of subject matter, but it wasn't too racy. It was all good. It was all fun and whatever. And as a creative choice, it makes it a bit less spiky, but I liked it. In the book, Hella refers to the prostitute as Nately's whore, and that's the name I came into a figure of, and she's defined by her indifference to Nately's affections, only sleeping with him out of financial obligation, as she's a prostitute. In this episode, she still goes unnamed, but she's charmed by Nately, by his innocence. And the brothel gives him 2 free hours with her, which was nice and very rare. So already it feels like we're going in a slightly different direction from the book, and this isn't something I have a problem with. We move on to Colonel Cathcart, who I've already briefly mentioned, who has 2 of the moments of the episode. That already scene with Major Major and the one where he gives an inept congratulatory speech to the men for hitting their targets, punctuated by a brief moment of rage where he sees that one territory has been spared, only to be informed that it's Vatican City. And there's a good bit of dialogue then. Gotta respect that neutral territory. Well done, men. Gotta love those Catholics, huh? And the Jews. Riding high on such a successful day, Cathcart raises the mission count to 35, which infuriates Yossarian. and is one of the pivotal moments of the show, the episode, and the book. Yossarian had only 2 missions left to complete before going home, and at this point, it's up to 7. Now, onto my favourite character, Milo Minderbinder. That's a bit of a mouthful. Who is the original Arthur Daly, and the slow burn showing of him becoming a war profiteer is brilliant. He capitalizes on the senior command's cravings for good food by starting a one-man syndicate in which everyone has a share. He convinces Cathcart to lend him a plane so that he can travel to places like Scotland, Poland to trade goods, and then on base can buy them from the syndicate. An absolute con man, Milo embodies capitalism in its most deviousness, confusing ignorant men with the promise of equality that can only benefit himself. In this episode, Colonel Cathcart, an arrogant commander who's hankering for ripe tomatoes, clouds his judgment. And as I've said, he's like the original Arthur Daly, Del Trotter, but with no scruples and amoral. Now, going back to the headline character Yossarian, he does everything in his power short of going AWOL to keep from flying back into the sky on a mission. He convinces Nurse Duckett to let him stay in the hospital for a little while so that Major can learn his duties and try to get him out of them, which doesn't work. Unfortunately, he's kicked out for picking a fight with a Texan who won't stop talking to another soldier who is completely covered from head to foot in bandages. He finds relief in the brothel, but becomes distraught after learning from Milo that Cathcart has raised the mission count to 40, which means he's gone from 7 to 12 missions left. And what can you say? He's at his wit's end. And late in the episode, there's a scene where Yossarian discusses with Clevenger about the situation. And it's taken almost directly from the book for a reason. It lays out Yossarian's worldview, and while providing an establishment point of view in Clevenger, who for him, it's not up to them which targets must be destroyed or who destroys them or for how long, because men entrusted with winning the war are in a position to make those decisions. Yossarian, on the other hand, has no interest in dying because Cathcart wants to make general. After all, it doesn't matter to a dead man who wins the war for what reason. Both Clevenger and Yossarian are recklessly operating on the principle, but at opposite ends. Joseph Heller appeared to sympathize with the anxieties and fears of his characters, yet often in Catch-22, when a character died or disappeared suddenly with only a casual mention or offhanded demise, this was a bit stark in the book, and this show doesn't take that option. When Clevenger disappears, we see Yossarian's pained face, we see lingering shots of him, we get a music cue, and I'm glad it did this because I don't think it would have worked in book form. It would have been a bit more robotic, it lacked the emotional impact. And also, in my head, I had all the experiences and deaths occurring near the end of the story, but had completely forgot that this series is told out of order. That the book was out of order, whereas the series is linear. So the deaths and disappearances could be coming at any point. And speaking perfectly, it threw me for 6, and I was shocked despite knowing that this was coming. And Clevenger's disappearance only strengthens Yossarian's belief that complying with these orders is a death sentence. Anyone who blindly follows Cathcart's authority is blindly walking to their own death. And Cathcart himself all but admits this when he informs the men of a new mission to Bologna, where he makes clear that some won't be coming home alive. And this is a direct quote from him, "In your final moments, you see death coming for you. Think not of death, think of the living." I forgot how much good dialogue was in Catch-22. And Yossarian thinks of the living every day, and he doesn't want to give death the chance to come for him. And from his point of view, if the enemy is anyone who's going to get you killed, and the enemy has spoken, and all that's left to do is to run. And that's the episode. That's the meat and potatoes of the episode, but I've got some additional notes which I just want to go through. I love the direction. There's this brilliant shot at the start which pans from the basketball game to Milo arriving in the supply truck, which is a brilliantly shot moment really early in the episode. The scene with the old man in the brothel is one of the very best bits in the book. Memorable bits in the book as well, and is one of the best moments of this episode, and I expect this series. And he points that the weaker, poorer nations are ultimately more sustainable. Makes a lot of sense, despite sounding bonkers at the same time. The delivery of his line, "All great empires are destroyed, why not yours?" That gave me chills. During the episode, Yasarian is seen talking to a little Italian girl. I assume this is Nately's whore's kid sister, which brought back memories of events yet to come, which, anyone who doesn't know what's going to come, she's going to be a memorable character. Anyone who does know what's to come, right here. And there's a moment where Arafi tries to chat up a maid, and this is a dark, creepy moment. It's a dark, creepy moment if you know what's going to come, and it felt like it was well played by the actor and shot in a way that was dark and creepy anyway. I'd be curious to see if anyone not familiar with it found it also creepy as well. Please tell me in the comments. And that's all I've got to say on this episode. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. 10 out of 10. Perfect. This is brilliant TV, and I can't wait for the next episode. Absolutely brilliant. I want more. As I record this, I've only got one more day left to go to the next episode. And thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.